Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another weekly episode of our Mission Matters Clubhouse. It's a weekly event and series that we put together every Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. We change up our topics. We bring up different panel speakers, many of whom are authors with us, have published a book with us, whether they have one coming out. Many of them are also clients as well. And they work pretty actively with us, on the podcast side or marketing services that we provide. In short, this week's topic is what's the best business advice you've received? We brought on a few different panelists here and speakers who are going to ask a few different questions. And to give everyone some background, our company is called Mission Matters. We're a media platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, business owners, executives. In short, our mission is to help amplify your purpose so that we can inspire and educate future generations. And so company's been around for some time. We published over almost 50 authors now, I think. And we have recorded almost 4,000 podcast interviews over the last few years since we've launched. And so we're constantly recording and creating content that we believe could be valuable for our listeners. And then on the back end, we also have a full service marketing and podcast agency where we help individuals publish books, help them with their podcasting services, help them build an audience there, and then do some PR marketing as well. But with that, I'm going to hand the baton here to Adam, who's going to moderate the discussion and going to lead with all of the intros. So from there, take it forward, Adam.
All right. Thank you, Chirag. Appreciate it as always. And I'm excited about this topic. So I have two pieces of business advice that I've received that I lean on all the time, and I'm excited to share those. But and of course, I want to hear what other people have to say and what everybody else has done. And just to let you know, this is definitely not like interview style or anything like that. This is fireside chat style. We can all chime in. We can all, give our input and just make this a real good conversation. I'm excited from learning from everybody that's present. And let's just start with our intros, just to tell us a little bit about yourself so that we can start maybe with Elizabeth and work our way over. And Elizabeth, I just have to say, I love this new look on your Clubhouse thumbnail. You're so fancy. My gosh.
Thank you so much. So one of the moderators in my room, she made it for us. So we kind of branded ourselves for our room. So it was really nice of her. So I'm Elizabeth Yo. I am a United States Navy veteran, been a veteran for 27 years in the corporate space now. I am a published author, thanks to Chirag and Adam, the best guys in the world here. I'm an advocate now. I'm a keynote speaker, board member, entrepreneur, coach, trainer, facilitator, moderator. I'm a caregiver and a mom. So I wear I do a lot of volunteer and community engagement work here in Los Angeles County, California. And I am dedicated to the health, well-being, and welfare of women veterans in the state of California and throughout the United States. So just recently I became a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate for the county of Orange County here in California, and that is representing underrepresented youth that has been displaced, youth in foster care. So I really still have that heart of selfless service and trying to give back everywhere I can, and I always have a heart for kids. I'm a mom. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, and I'm very happy to be here. So thank you so much for this opportunity, gentlemen. I won't say I yield the mic since this is a very casual conversation, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I want one of those thumbnails or whatever we call it, because that's really cool. So I'm just going to throw that out there as an ask. David, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Always a pleasure to be here. My name is David. I'm chiming in from New York City. I currently am a 5-time author, soon to be 6. People joke with me that I am 6 books in, going on 47, because just how I write. I'm also a podcaster as well, which is called the Be Your Own Hero Show. Hence my Superman shirt and my Superman getup. And basically, I invite people on that have been underestimated, counted out, told that they wouldn't be anything, and decided, much like myself, to be stubborn about it and do it anyway. And then I also have a couple of stocks under my belt, so I'm a stocks investor. And then on Clubhouse, I have 2 rooms. One is called the Be Your Own Hero Room, which is named after my podcast. And then I also have a Chirag wine and cigars room, which is just a celebration space to kind of get away from sometimes like the business talk, like all the business talk. So yeah, my name is David, and I'm done speaking. And thanks for having me. Myself.
Man, I didn't know about this celebration room, David. I think I didn't hear about that last time. This is awesome.
Yeah, I've had it for a while. I just recently started using it, honestly. But I've had it for like maybe about 2 months now.
Dang, Chirag, how do we go into these rooms? I'm just saying, no. Patricia, welcome, and please introduce yourself. And I love your thumbnail too, by the way. You guys are all so fancy. I'm over here just doing nothing with my thank you.
Well, you have a nice background to you. But okay, my name is Patricia. I'm actually in New York also. I'm born and raised in Manhattan, but I'm in Long Island now. I own my own company, which is an investor relations, public relations, media relations, and marketing company. I've been doing that for over 33. Let's see, I'm actually in the process of writing a book also, just talking about how I worked from the ground up, was a single mom of 2 small kids, put myself through college, basically trying to give inspiration to people about, quitting should never be an option. Just keep pushing forward and you could be successful. At this point, what else? Prior to recently, I was a skydive instructor for 15 years. Loved it. Did it for 15 years, became an instructor. But then I was in an accident skydiving and I was basically knocked unconscious, spent quite a while trying to recoup. So at this point now, I just focus on my business and my grandkids now. I now have 5 grandkids, which keep me plenty busy. But other than that, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I guess let's just kick it off and open up the floor. So business advice. I guess my thought was first, like the idea of taking business advice, is it a good thing, a bad thing? Like some people want to reinvent a lot of things, do it themselves. Some people want to follow established, like maybe paths that have been laid. Just overall, your thoughts on taking business advice.
Mike, I could say for me, one thing that I always admired, I started a job right out of high school and I worked, it was kind of like how I got into marketing in the first place. It wasn't something that I ever aspired to do. I'm always impressed by people in high school who say, when I grow up, I want to be this and I want to be that. I always still say, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But I looked with this company and they were just so successful and so inspiring. But one thing with them that they taught me is that you never say you can't do something. If someone asks you to do something, and you say, well, I don't know how. Well, now they're going to move on to somebody else. So it's either you say, okay, great, I'll get it done. And either you learn how to do it really quick or you find somebody else who can and you learn from them, but at least you've now got them in your locks. So that's something that I always admired. I always try to say, you never say you can't do something or that you don't know how to do something. You either figure out how to do it or you find somebody else who can.
I do agree with that advice. I've heard similar, actually. I've heard a few, obviously, just like everybody. But if I had to narrow it down to maybe 3, one of the things that one of my former mentors had told me was, I remember at one point I was telling him where I wanted to go, like where I could see myself going. And he told me that if you want to be at that level, if multimillionaire or billionaire is where you want to be, then you need to act like one and own your time. And at the time, that stung like a bee. It stung, but it made sense. It made sense that throughout the day, keep track of all the decisions you make, because the decisions you make today will pave way for the life that you live tomorrow or in a few years. So that's one piece of advice that I got, was to own all aspects of your time. And another piece of advice that I also received was, speaking of time, from the time you wake up in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time you wake up, track of everything that you do throughout the day. So that way, when your day is over, you know where you were most productive and you know where you wasted your time. And so I used to be a heavy social media scroller. And when I realized how much time I was spending on social media, like just scrolling and not really having conversations, but just scrolling, it really made me a lot more mindful of the conversations that I was having with people. So that was my second piece of advice. And then the third piece of advice that I was from the book 10X by Grant Cardone. Is one of my favorites. And one of the things that he said was, take your efforts and 10 times them. So instead of calling 10 people, call 100. Because out of the 100, 10 people will actually respond to your inquiry, whatever you're trying to find out about. So always make sure that you 10X your efforts. So those were my top 3 pieces of advice that I've like been able to relate to or take away from like my experience.
Man, I love that 10X too. I remember when I first kind of discovered that a long time ago, and that made a big difference for me. What about like where we get our advice from? So, books, directly from people, directly from mentors. Like, what do you find works best for you? Or what are some ideas there for people that listen to this that are thinking, they kind of struggle because not everybody kind of puts themselves out there to get that advice. I know myself, I'll pick on myself, for example. Like a lot of times in the past, now I'm getting better at it, I think. I'm better at asking for advice and seeking out that help or other like varying opinions. But I can say earlier in my career, it was just me just kind of thinking it through a lot of things myself and not really seeking out additional help or getting other opinions that were different than my own, so to speak. So what do you find works best, like in terms of where you get your advice from?
Well, for me, I think it has to be a place of resonance. So I know a lot of times in my space, like the veteran space, most times if you are looking for somebody who, might be able to understand your path and has maybe had or shared a similar path with you, and then goes on to become, for example, a business owner or an entrepreneur or whatever they do, I think it's more of a place of connecting and resonating that they have been through this similar walk as you, and still giving you some ideas or hope of how you can too walk in a manner that maybe is your calling, or you want to provide a solution that you see a need for. And so I think it's the place of resonance that you immediately can connect or relate to, or that person is doing something that you would love to do and you want to see how they ended up on that road, what it took to build up to that, and how they found success or obtained the goal or cause within, if you will, to reach it. So for me, that's a big thing. Where's that connection? Where are they drawing from? Because some people draw from a place of money and they're just money driven, bottom line, and for the big boats, houses, and cars. And some people think, well, that's what I want, and that's not all what it seems like at the top. And then there's others who are looking for those who are making a great impact in a community or amongst a nation or something like that. So those two factors, I think, weigh in heavily, and it definitely does for me. So yeah, looking for people particularly who are accomplishing causes and benefiting communities is, for me personally, that's an accomplishment and something I'd like to mimic or learn how they did it. So yeah, that's all I have to offer at this time. Thank you.
I know for myself, definitely get it from a few people. I get it mainly from music artists and books in the music space per se, but I do, as we all know, music is within itself a frequency. And so I believe that if you listen to music long enough, it'll inspire you to come up with an idea. And so I do have certain maybe hip hop artists that I've really like followed their careers, I guess you could say, like they're buying like their CDs and their albums and things of that nature. And I've been able to take a lot of gems from certain artists. Like I know one or two artists in particular have put a strong emphasis on like owning things and the importance of ownership. And that's actually what has inspired me, not just do books for right now, but at some point get into other things like maybe owning some land or owning real estate or investing in the stock market or starting businesses in certain areas. For me, a lot of it came from music artists. And then secondly, is books behind that. So I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad a lot, 10X, like I told you. I've also read another one called Three Kings, which is about Dr. Dre, P. Diddy, and Jay-Z and how they became billionaires through music and then used their music to expand in other areas. And so who I tend to gravitate towards is people who do multiple things. And I think that's because I myself do multiple things. Granted, I don't do 6 or 7, I do 3 at the moment, but it is still multiple things. So I tend to gravitate towards people who do that and who make it look easy, even though it's not easy doing multiple things, but they have a certain grace about them. And that's definitely who I learned from. Like, how did you get from succeeding in one area to succeeding in multiple areas? And so for me, music is by far like my greatest mentors. And I have certain maybe 5 or 6 artists that I really listen to that I take gems from. So for me, it's music first, and then books, and then maybe a few videos like on YouTube.
That's awesome, David. And I didn't realize, you know what I was thinking about as you were talking? I get a lot from music too. Like ever since I was a kid, I remember that. Like I get a lot from different hip hop artists and things like that. I was like, one of the first artists I ever remember being a little kid. Like, what? He sold how many tapes out of his trunk, Master P? Like, I'm like, what? Like, how's that even possible? I just remember being a little kid, like just wondering, like, how can you like have a product like that and just go and sell it to somebody directly and they give you money for it? Like, I was really young during this time, obviously, when this stuff came out, but he really just, like, as a kid, I could understand that. Okay, you have a CD, you sell it to somebody, they give you money, you buy more, you do the same thing. Like, that was some of my earliest lessons in business.
Absolutely. I know for me, Master P and then Jay-Z is like a close second. For me, I wasn't thinking about perfume whatsoever until I heard Jay-Z talking about perfume, or I saw that he had like a fragrance out. And when I saw that they used, like I said, their success in music, and then they branched off and did fragrances, and then they branched off and did wine, and then now he does cannabis. He has a media company. Like, I became really, really inspired by Jay-Z's path to ownership. Like, like he's definitely at the top of my list for one of like my mentors through music, and then Master P, and then maybe like Snoop Dogg after that. But yeah, you could totally get something from music, man, for sure. I think it's slept on, to be honest with you, but
oh, Master P has his cereal. I saw that the other day on Amazon. I'm like, what? I was like, come on, this is. I was like, Hootie Hoos or something. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, he's got his face on everything. I love it, man. I'm like, I would buy it if it was in Whole Foods and over here. I was like, I'm in. Oh, I love it. So yeah, I saw again music's a big one for me too, and books. What about like who you get your advice from? So like, and I'll tell you where I'm going with that. So, you know, some people feel that who you get your advice for, like they should have been like, let's say you want to be a doctor. Okay. For just a very simple example, you want to be a doctor. Well, you should probably like work with people that are, you know, talk to a doctor or get your advice from somebody that's a doctor. Like that's going to be your best bet. So like, do you think you can get advice from people outside of your field? They have to be in your industry. Like, what about just in general, who you get your advice from? Like when you're working directly with mentors or otherwise?
Well, for me, I like when people say list your strengths, or what are your weaknesses, or what traits do you think make you a good leader, right? And it's easy to, you know, maybe list off what you think. So what you do is ask the people who know closest to you work with, who work for you, your friends, family that you trust, that, you know, really know you. And have seen you in multiple situations, not just in a work environment, but maybe in a tragedy happened. It was a challenge, or it was a good times, and it was a time for you to show humility, or it was a time for you to be charitable. So somebody who's really seen you in multiple situations, because, you know, you can see one person at a networking event, and that's the only side of them you might get to see, but we don't know how they might respond to some type of adversity or trauma or, you know, challenge, right? So I started to ask, you know, my friends and family I've known for years, people I've worked with, worked for, and ask them those questions instead of me answering them. And I love, you know, the feedback, because, you know, it's comfortable, so they will tell you the truth. You want somebody that's going to be honest with you. And I love the years and years ago when Madonna was like in her hype, you know, in like the early 90s, like she was at the top of the roller coaster ride back then. And she was on, she asked, she was getting negative criticism about this and that as she was going through one phase or another. And I remember they asked her directly in their interview, well, what do you have to say to your critics? And she said, I love my critics. They make me be better. They push me to be a better performer, to outdo whatever it is they're saying, So I thought, what a way to turn negative into a positive, and also a way to look at yourself, because maybe sometimes you get caught up in yourself and you're not able to see yourself for what you really are at any given time. But your friends and family, your coworkers, people who work for your work or you work for, can help keep you kind of checked, if you will, So you need to check yourself or you wreck yourself. Remember that song back in the day? So it's really true, though. I mean, that's how I try to make sure and measure, am I on the right track, or am I off, or am I thinking too much of myself or not enough of myself, or am I limiting myself, or I'm not even seeing in myself. So I think that's a great measure. It's been for me. I didn't always do it. When I was in my 20s, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the smartest person in the world. So now I'm not 20 and I'm like, wow, I'm really not the smartest person in the world, and I always can be learning. So for me, that's who I tend to go to. That's who I ask, because that's who you want to be able to trust, those people who will answer you honestly. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So my question was essentially like, who you get your advice from? Like, do they have to be specialists in your field or in what you're doing? Or is it okay to take outside advice? Because I don't know, I hear different opinions and just like to hear the opinion of the people.
Yeah, I guess popcorn's new for me too, but I pretty much take advice from anybody. I'm always interested in learning new things. And even now, the way the whole landscape's changed with technology and business and whatnot, I have a lot of people, I always go to them and just say, what do you think of this? Or, trying to like expand with business. People have given me all different types of, advice and guidance and mentorship and whatnot. And they have another app, Lunch Club, which I've met people, around the world. And you have like a 45-minute to an hour chat with them. Sometimes the businesses are similar. Sometimes they're not even remotely close, but you learn a lot from everybody. You learn what they're doing, what you could maybe do different. You offer advice, the same. So I'm always interested in just, taking advice from pretty much everybody. It doesn't mean I have to, take it full-fledged, but a lot of times I learn something new, especially if they can tell me like what they're doing, what the other people do, or why they think I should do something different. It's all pretty useful.
Yeah, that's great. And in my mind, and I think over time, just in my situation, like my seeking out advice has changed, number one, but also who I work with and who I seek that advice from has also changed. So in the past, I remember thinking like, I guess, like for example, we're in the media business, right? I had to only draw my inspiration or my advice from somebody else that's in the media business because they've done it. But now I find with technology and other things, it's just been so much easier to get outside perspectives and just even to come up with different ideas and innovate in certain ways, just based off of having influences maybe from industries that I didn't even know would relate to what I'm doing. And even traditional industries like real estate and other things like that. Like there's just, in my opinion, a lot to learn from different areas. So do we want to start bringing some people up and maybe getting them involved also in the convo?
Sure. Yeah, happy
All right,
to.
let's do it.
Does anyone want to come up and chime in, comment, and introduce yourself?
I think Alex had a question or had something a minute ago, I believe. If you want to, there he goes.
There we go.
Everybody, good evening. How y'all doing? What I wanted to go ahead and talk about what I wanted to respond to was this question up here. What's the best business advice you've received? Right? I have two. The first one I have is when in charge, be in charge. That was the first one. And I can give you more details about that one. And the second one was a problem is just an opportunity to shine. Those are the two that I received. And I took those separately. Well, I got those two from two different individuals. Both of them was when I was in the Marine Corps. And one was a retired master gunnery sergeant. And the first one was when in charge, be in charge. Got that when I was in boot camp from my drill instructor, right? And so I've held on to those. And I know some people are like, well, how does that apply to business? Well, when you're in the military, right? You're it's gonna sound kind of crazy, but the business that you're in is in the killing business normally. But there's other aspects to the military that we do. Like I was an administrator, so when in charge, be in charge basically mean that whenever I'm put in charge of troops, fellow Marines, a project, whatever it is, own it, own it, own it, and get it done. So when in charge, be in charge. So that's what that one's about. And the second one was the master gunnery sergeant gave me that one, retired, is because I told him, well, when I get out, I'm planning to start my own business, so on and so forth. And he asked me, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to solve problems. He's like, you know what? That's very good. Said that because a problem is just an opportunity to shine. If you always remember that, you'll always assist somebody in solving their problems. So those are the two that I received. With that, I yield the mic.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I'm glad because that was some good stuff. Who else wants to share or comment or chime in on business advice they've received?
I appreciate that share, brother. I'm in the Army right now. I'm still active in the infantry for the past 13 years, and switched over into Army acquisitions, which is a fancy way of saying I'm a product manager and kind of fill new equipment to soldiers. And when in charge, be in charge. That's absolutely it. In the infantry, we have a saying: "Follow me." When you're a leader, you're a leader. Never ask someone to do something that you yourself cannot do. And that's one of the lessons I learned from one of my mentors at a very young age, especially in military services. As a leader, that's the difference between a manager. Do not ask someone to do something, at least physically, because that was where the realm I came from, that you yourself would not do personally. And then number two, invest in people. That's the number one rule that I always try to do, and it's been successful for me, is invest in people first. Focus on them, focus on transforming them, making them successful, because if they are successful, in turn, you will be successful, and you're going to get more out of that than trying to just focus on individual problems. Make the people problem solvers, and then any problem can be solved. With that, my name is Josh, and I'm complete.
Hello, and thank you, Elizabeth, for the invitation. I get a lot of just listening to you folks. I'm not sure how much I really have to contribute, but I would say recently the best business of advice, I guess you'd call, I received is reading the book called Range by David Epstein, I believe is the author. It was recommended to me, and the premise of the book is about how kind of people with lots of like a variety of experiences who have a general knowledge in lots of areas and lots of skills can succeed, kind of in the long run. It's kind of in contrast in many ways to the idea of like the 10,000 hours of deliberate practice in a specialized environment kind of mentality. I'm someone who's probably more of a generalist than a specialist. I've practiced law. I currently work for a nonprofit. Growing up, I worked a lot of like blue collar construction jobs. And so I kind of am someone who appreciates a variety of experiences and not just focusing like a laser beam on one narrow aspect of something. And recently, in the past year, I've developed a hobby of making soap that I want to turn into a business selling soap. So my 8-word motto is make soap, sell soap, get rich, quit job. And so right now I've done the first 2 words, make soap, and I'm starting to transition to selling soap. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you again, Elizabeth, and it's great to listen to everybody.
Man, what a great story, Morrison. Thank you for that. And I love that you're selling soap. Like, that's so exciting to me to start a new venture. You created something new. I don't want to, if you don't want to share this, by the way, you don't have to, but I'm just curious because I know we're a couple years in our business. Since you're just getting into, or we're going on 5 years, Chirag and myself, with Mission Matters, since you're just getting into, and again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're willing to share, I'm just curious, like, how you're going about now that you have the product and now you're thinking about the selling part, like how you're going about like getting advice from other people or books or things like that on your journey. Because since you're just right in that beginning startup stage, so to speak, it's just an interesting time, I feel. And again, you don't have to share that. If you say pass, you can just say pass. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm just really interested in hearing about soap and where you're about to take this thing. This is exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share. So it's kind of funny. So I guess a couple things kind of led to it. But about a year ago, so like I said, I went to law school. I practiced law for 10 years. I was never fully satisfied practicing law. And after a decade, I kind of thought, I don't want to spend the next 20 years of my life kind of doing this type of work. And so I transitioned to a nonprofit that I work for now, which is actually where I met Elizabeth. And it's kind of it's a sports-based youth development program, kind of based around the sport of wrestling. I grew up as a wrestler, so it's a passion of mine. And I currently, in my full-time role, run 23 youth wrestling programs here in Los Angeles. We serve about 1,000 kids a year, and I do a whole lot of things for the nonprofit. But as far as the soap goes, two things. A year ago, I got some really nice soap, and I used it and liked it and wanted to buy some more. And I went to buy some more, and I thought, there's no way in the world I'm paying $11 for a bar of soap. I just can't do it. I don't care how good this soap is. And I said, and then like a bizarre epiphany, it was like, I will spend hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars learning how to make soap, my own, before I buy some more soap for like $11 a bar or whatever. And so about a year ago, I just kind of started learning about the process and step by step, kind of building upon it. And I've really liked it. It combines a lot of, kind of various interests. The process of learning how to make soap has been kind of fascinating and enjoyable, and kind of being somewhat of a generalist. It's been fun for me to learn the other aspects of everything, how to build a website, how to, I've built my own molds for the soap, and just, anyway, it's been a project that I've been chipping away at for a year now. And one thing that kind of propelled me on, well, two things, is that, so the nonprofit I work for, we had a board meeting. One of the things that our executive director shared was a TED Talk that was talking about the model of nonprofits and how people that run nonprofits are not compensated in proportion to like their capability. And that if someone runs the calculus in their head, they think, well, if I work for a nonprofit and I make $85,000 a year, if I put that effort into like the private sector, I can make $400,000 a year, and I'm better off just donating a quarter of my salary, to the nonprofit, and then, I can still serve it better that way. And then I thought, well, you know what? I can do that. Like, I can make $400,000 a year, selling soap eventually, and then I can donate my salary back to the nonprofit. I don't have to work for them anymore, and I can contribute to them as much as I do now, in greater financial terms. And then so last Christmas, I made some soap. I sent it out to about a dozen friends and family. Got a whole lot of good feedback from it. And so I thought, you know what? If a dozen of my family and friends like it and say, go for it, go bigger, like, why not try and go bigger? So that's what I've been working on since Christmas. I just got my website coming soon. Website up yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. So that's exciting. But it's a slow process. I'm not like rushing anything. I don't care if it takes 2 years, whatever. If I keep chipping away, I feel like I'll build something. One thing that inspires me is I went to the Watts Towers once in Watts and visited that, and listening to him talk about how a small little 5'0" Italian man spent 20 years building that thing, and now it's a monument that'll last for generations. And so that's kind of my mentality, to just keep chipping away and build something that'll last generations, I hope. So that's all. Thank you.
That's so great.
That's a great story. I'm so inspired. I'm like, man, this is cool. And so is just throwing this out there, there's a website. You said the coming soon site is out. So how do people buy your soap now? Because I want to check it out, because I am one of those people that will pay $10 or $11 for a bar of soap. Every time I walk by that Lush store, they get me. I'm like, okay, they put some soap in my hand and I bought it. So where do we buy this stuff from while we're at it? And that's my shameless plug for you, by the way.
Thank you. Well, just so 2 weeks ago, I mailed soap out. I have 24 soap testers. I'm kind of doing some market research on my own. I sent that out to 24 different people. Elizabeth was one of them. And soapbymorris.com. I haven't even put it in my bio yet because I just got it up yesterday. And I'm not all set up yet with like the online payments and the whole thing yet. That would probably realistically take me another month or so to kind of get that all lined up. So right now I'm still in the market research phase. But anyway, one person that helps me is I have a life coach who has really helped me through this process and kind of helped me identify, and just keep on track and help me think about all the things I need to kind of get done. Right now it's just like a garage and kitchen table kind of project. And so I'm just trying to hustle in addition to kind of my full-time work to kind of build something that, can replace it someday. So.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Well, I see we have another person that came in the room. Kyle, if you want to come up, we're just kind of sharing the best business advice we received. We've just been doing around kind of a round table. If you want to come up and share, you're welcome to. Other than that, does anybody else have any maybe other last minute words or things they want to share in terms of business advice they've received or that they want to get out there?
Yeah, I would like to share the greatest advice I got, and that has propelled me to open my whole mindset up onto a plethora of other things that I wanted and never knew I needed to do. And that is to Adam. And I remember having a conversation with Adam when I first was even being considered for an author, because during our conversation, I didn't even think he was considering me to be an author. I thought it was just a conversation. And I remember after I put that chapter together and started to align myself with Chirag and Adam, that it has absolutely been the biggest blessing of my life. And I didn't realize, and Adam told me that it would happen, that, this is going to be a great new beginning for me. And that I just, honestly, even when he was telling me, I couldn't see it. I'm like, really? Yeah, okay. Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm still working my 9 to 5. And that's when my daughter was in wrestling with Morris. This happened during that time, Morris, when Samara was coming and going to wrestling. So I, wrote that during the midst of that. So I feel like, it's full circle. We're all in this one platform together right now. And it is honestly because of Chirag and Adam, having met them at randomly at some networking group. Networking is real. And now we're on a platform, Clubhouse platform, still networking. So it's just so funny to me and such a blessing, Adam. I will never forget that conversation we had. And I remember meeting up with Chirag, just thinking we were catching up, kind of just, chomping at the bit, and that it would ever have turned into what it is now. So I just want to thank you, gentlemen, and even Morris, because he's always been a great positive influence for our family and really propelled my daughter to be confident and stand in the wrestling field. So I'm just in awe of you, gentlemen, and also my fellow veterans on the stage here. And honestly, it's just a blessing. And I really thank you, Adam. You are one of the people that has given me the best advice you and Chirag have ever received. And so I just thank you both.
Too kind, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. And I share your story all the time, just so you know. I record a lot of episodes, a lot of shows, so I know you don't hear it, but I shared your story the other day about cereal, and I know you remember that one. I swear, I'm telling you, I share your stories all the time. And I swear I did. Don't worry, I didn't say your name, but I was like, hey. Sorry, that's an inside joke. Sorry. No.
Yeah, Olivia knows.
Olivia knows? Okay, they got it. All right, so they all know. Okay, good. I wasn't trying to. Olivia, are you the one that made those beautiful bands?
No, I wish, but they are gorgeous. But no,
where's mine? You have one too? Come on. Where do I get one of these?
Send me your picture, and I'll have our sister Nicole make you one.
Done. Thank you.
Okay.
Please introduce yourself now. I'm sorry. Now that I've asked you for something.
You know what? Hey, believe me, that's what we're here for, right, Elizabeth? To serve. My name is Olivia Chavez Carroll, and I am the CEO and founder of the Veteran Awareness Project. And what we do is I work with companies and veterans alike to ensure that, one, veterans stay employed and they receive the services they need, as well as companies are able to work with veterans and ensure that the veterans that work with them and for them are receiving the benefits and that they need, so that there is a relationship between service members and their families with their companies. Many companies do not realize that they are bleeding their bottom line because of turnover. So many companies are losing between $50,000 to $5 million a year, depending on if those companies are paying minimum wage to hundreds of thousands of dollars for their employees. And so many companies don't think about that, board of directors and even business owners. And I've learned a lot in Clubhouse about how many from Dubai to Korea, as well as here in the US, they don't think about stuff like that. So I really do appreciate that's who I am. And I just appreciate that, for me, the best business advice that I've received has just been to truly listen to everyone, listen to what people ask, because you're going to learn so much more from others. And I try to do that. I try to just listen with my spirit first so that I can what is needed. This is Olivia, and I'm done speaking.
Olivia, this is Mr. Alex. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. You know what? I love the plug that you just gave in, and I just have a question. Number one, to all my fellow veterans, I love it that we're on the platform. I love seeing more and more of us out here speaking up, speaking out, and doing business together. That's outstanding. Now back to Miss Olivia there. My question is this: have you found it better for large companies or commercial companies to go ahead and partner up with veteran-owned companies to fulfill certain subcontract needs or contract needs?
Actually, many instances, when there's specific needs, that it is better for those contractors to go with veteran-owned businesses because of the niche. Many times, some of those business owners don't have that. I would definitely like to give you more details, and if you want to DM me, we can definitely take it offline.
I'm already following you.
Best business advice, Olivia. I can't let you off the hook with that one. Name of the room. What's the best business advice you've received? So I want to pick on you, but if you had something, or just something that somebody's told you once that like kind of helped you in your business.
Oh, I thought I said that. Just like, I think, like I said, well, I guess it was a little broad about the listening piece, but for me, it was on that, as far as the listening piece, sometimes when I've been given the advice of, when it comes to the listening piece, a lot of times when someone's telling me what they need, it's not really what they're saying. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is that I've been told two things. Believe somebody what they say is who they are, because that is who they are. A lot of people drive what's called what Elizabeth and I like to call the me, my, and I train. When they like to say me, my, I, they're telling you that they are a narcissist. And two, when someone is having a difficult time explaining who they are as far as what they're offering you, it is because they are trying to explain that they have a need. They need you, but they don't know how to tell you what they need. And so you're having to read between the lines. And so what I was told was that advice to me, that business advice, was when they're explaining to you what they need from you, it's by listening to what is not being said. Does that make sense?
Totally, and thank you for sharing that. So any other best business advice or anything else anybody else wants to share just in general? Just don't want to end it prematurely if anybody has anything else to say. All right, Chirag, I think we're about wrapping up. If you want to close us out. Or wait a minute, did you share your best business advice, Chirag, or did you get away with that one? See, he always tries to get sneaky, Elizabeth. You gotta watch him. Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is my best business advice, because it's just hard, right? I think it's circumstantial based on where you're at in life, because I think some advice helps you more than others. But for me, I think not so much advice, but I think it's the people you're getting advice from. I think from what I've learned personally is to find people that have gone through that similar situation, because I don't think anyone can go to the exact same situation. I mean, I think there's stuff maybe that's pretty dang close, but to find those people that have gone through what you've gone through before, or something that's a little bit similar to it, and then kind of ask them step by step, like that entire process, and try to reverse engineer what that outcome was. Whether it could be a personal matter, it could be something in relation to family, right? Or maybe you're talking to someone that's gone through that, could be parental related. It could be a legal situation. So maybe if you're undergoing some sort of legal matter, and you can talk to a specific lawyer who specializes in that type of situation, right? It could be a mentor or an advisor of some sort who has gone through that situation. It could be something business related where you need to hire a new employee and you don't really know, like, what do you pay them, right? And so that could be something that could come up. Or it could be that you want to create a little bit more of a diverse board of directors. So the question really becomes, and that I've asked myself, what I've learned is, how do I find the right people, and how do I ask the right questions to the right people? And I think sometimes that is how you get the best advice, is to know what are the right questions to ask to begin with. And I think that's how I try to approach it from my standpoint. But I think that's gotten me this far in life. Made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I think it's just getting better at being able to ask the right questions from the right people.
You're always profound, and
you never want to share. I just can't. Adam, please help me understand. I don't get it. He's always like, oh my God, this guy is like mind blowing. Like, wow. And then you're like, yeah, you got to like pull him out, like make him.
I always
make
leave it
him
up
talk.
to you and Adam every week to pull it out of me. So I was waiting for it to come. Come on.
Nah, he's just being annoying, Elizabeth. He gets on my nerves. You could have started with that, Chirag. Right now,
I know, right? You could have kicked off. Hello. Oh my God.
Love it.
He just always wants to drop the mic at the end. Okay, now you can end it, Chirag.
Oh, you guys are too great. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for chiming in. We're going to have another dialogue next week. We're actually just putting together our next speaking engagement. So we'll be sending out emails, but you guys will actually find all of the events in the Mission Matters Club. They should all go live. The goal is to have the next, like literally the whole next month calendar. So you guys will see, what the events are that we have coming up. So again, Thursday, 4 p.m. we'll be here, PST once again. And, feel free to follow all of the speakers here. Everyone's had some amazing advice. And last but not least, this conversation is recorded. So we are going to have it go live on our website, and you guys should be able to find it on missionmatters.com probably in the next several weeks is what our goal is. We're going to build out an entire tab on the site focused on Clubhouse, since we've got a pretty amazing slate of conversations that we've been storing, and so want to push it live in sync. So you guys are all going to be a part of it, and we'll make sure that you guys are all tagged. Always try to keep a tab of all of our speakers, everyone that's even asked a question in the conversation, because it provides value to everyone here. So with that, thank you everyone. Hope you all enjoy your evening, and come join us next week, 4 p.m. PST. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.